our physical health is also directly impacted by our emotional health. In fact, there's a book, I've mentioned a number of times, called The Body Keeps the Score, that whether we're aware of it or not, our body keeps track of our emotions. Think about all the emotional injuries you've ever had in your life. Thousands of emotional injuries. How many of those emotional injuries have you ever dealt with? Have you dealt with any of the emotional injuries that you've had in your life? If not, that's thousands of emotional knots that are all over your body. If we could take your emotional body out of your physical body and have it look like, if we could see it, if we could see your emotional body, it would be covered in emotional knots and emotional injuries and emotional wounds and emotional scars. And listen, what do I say a lot on our podcast is unaddressed emotional issues do not get better over time. They actually compound. What is going on, EQ Gangsters? So hope you guys are doing great. Hope you are getting healthier emotionally. And if you have not started an emotional fitness program, strongly recommend it. Couple suggestions in starting your emotional fitness program is just listening to our podcast. And not because, we're the end all be all, subject matter experts on emotional intelligence or emotional health necessarily, but it's a great way to start growing your emotional vocabulary, which is a big part of getting healthier emotionally and growing your emotional intelligence, because now you will be able to more accurately and specifically identify the emotions that you're feeling. And it's very important and helpful to identify the specific emotion, not the higher principled or the higher umbrella emotion, but the very specific. So not just, hey, my arm hurts or my leg hurts, but my lower leg hurts. Well, what part of your lower leg? Well, my tibia hurts. I'm not a doctor, but you get the point. So the more specific that you can be in addressing those emotions, the better. Which again is why starting that emotional fitness program by growing your emotional vocabulary, by listening to our podcast, will be very helpful. Then for those of you all that are ready to take your emotional fitness program to the next level, check out EQGangster.com/mafia. Join a supportive, encouraging, uplifting, safe community of people that are all working on their emotional health together. We also have probably 150 hours of content in our membership already that is already available, and we go live 1 to 2 times a month in the membership with a live group coaching event, discussion, workshop, working through topics and issues specifically related to or affected by our emotional health and emotional intelligence. Thank you guys so much for rating, reviewing, subscribing, sharing the episodes that are impactful for you, whether you're watching on YouTube right now, our YouTube channel, or you are listening to our podcast, whatever platform you're listening to. Thank you so much. And if you haven't rated or reviewed or subscribed, please do. It really helps out a lot. Really stoked to share the episode for today. Symptoms versus the source. Symptoms versus the source. Been talking to a number of folks, military folks, first responders, LEOs, law enforcement officers, SWAT team folks, executives. So a lot of folks been talking to. And what's been interesting, a number of the different organizations that I've spoken with like to address symptoms. Now, I understand why they want to address symptoms. They're not familiar with emotional health or emotional intelligence. So when you're not familiar with something, if you're a hammer, well, what's my only solution that I can see is I need a hammer because that's all I know. That's the only tool I know. So let's just create more bandaids and more symptoms, more rules and regulations to help out the people in our organization. So let me give you a couple specific stories, or at least one. So one of my buddies is a big cheese colonel, head doctor for a whole military base. Again, I won't give details and stuff because protect the innocent here, but we were talking, and in this particular base, and I don't think it's specific to his base, I think it's probably happening at a lot of bases all over the globe, soldiers are dealing with a lot of DUIs, right? Driving under the influence, a lot of suicides, a lot of depression, a lot of domestic abuse, a lot of abuse of substances, drugs, alcohol, medications, that kind of thing. And so in talking to this high-ranking military guy, he told me, this is what we're doing. Well, they've already done this. So we implemented a handful of things. One, they have to, soldiers that do not live on post have to store their weapons on post. Something like that. Number two, they're closing the ABC liquor stores earlier. So maybe they would close at 10 normally. Now they're closing at like 8 or 9 p.m. They are increasing their designated drivers on and off post to be able to get soldiers that are inebriated home safely. They are still doing a lot of medication and stuff for soldiers that need it. And so I asked him. So he said, these are all the different things we're doing. I said, oh, okay, great. I said, now how many of those rules and regulations are addressing the actual emotional health of the soldier? Go ahead, I'll wait. This is a big cheese, y'all. Big cheese. Well, obviously, he figured out the answer very quickly. None of them. I said, bro, you're dealing with symptoms. You're putting Band-Aids. How many of those rules and regulations is going to decrease anything? They're just going to find another way to still do unhealthy behaviors because you're not addressing the emotional health of the soldier. And again, I'm just using that scenario. I've recently had conversations with other organizations, companies, first responders, LEOs. This is how leaders are trying to help. Now, I'm thankful that they're just trying to help, that they recognize that there's even an issue. So that's huge props for those organizations and those leaders. That's props. Two, that they're wanting to do something about it. Three, the issue that I have is they're dealing with the symptoms or trying to deal with the symptoms and not the source of the issue. The source of the issue is the emotional unhealthiness of the people within their organization. Those LEOs, those first responders, those medical workers, those soldiers, those executives, the leaders within their company, their organization. If you don't address and help empower and equip that individual, let me predict the future. Let me pull a little Nostradamus action here. You're still going to have people behaving in unhealthy, unproductive, potentially harmful ways, not only to themselves, but also potentially to the organization or to their customers, or right? So So think about you as a leader, as the leader of your house, of your family. Are you trying to rules and regulations away the behaviors that you're trying to avoid or reduce? Or are you trying to empower, equip, and improve the emotional health and fitness of the people that are part of your family, your organization, your company, your team, etc.? So, because all those things that my buddy had shared, those are all symptoms. Those are all band-aids. And I'm reading my notes here for those of y'all that are watching me on YouTube. Symptoms are fine, but they're still not addressing the source of the issue. So the source of the issue, again, the emotional health and fitness of the individual is what needs to change. And one of those things is, again, helping each individual, part of your organization, part of your team, develop a consistent and ongoing emotional fitness program. And of course, I always get, well, what on earth is an emotional fitness program? Like, I don't even know what that means. So, and I'll do an episode maybe at some point, and I do this stuff with my coaching clients as well. But I want you to understand the principles, right? So physical fitness is not something that you can do once and now you're physically fit and you're physically healthy. Oh man, I'm going to go for a 2-mile run, a 5-mile run, a 10-mile run, and then boom, you're done. You go to the gym, you do one CrossFit workout. Oh man, whew, that was tough. All right, I'm good. I'm good for the rest of my life. How often should you be doing a physical fitness program? What frequency? What level of intention? What level of attention should you give to your physical fitness program? Well, I would argue, again, disclaimer, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a therapist. From my own personal experience, I would argue that we need an emotional fitness program as often as we should be doing physical fitness, which 3 to 5 times a week at a minimum would be my 2 cents. And here's the other thing too. Just doing a physical fitness workout, a workout when you feel like it is also not going to lead to physical fitness. Well, I just don't feel like it this week. I don't feel like working out this month. I don't feel like brushing my teeth today. I don't feel like taking a shower this week. Right? That doesn't work. Emotional fitness, and I would argue, is as important, if not more important, than a physical fitness program. Now I know some of y'all are already thinking, well, Noble, physical fitness does help out emotional fitness. 100% agree. There's no question about it. Having a physical fitness program will absolutely help and impact directly and indirectly your mental and emotional health and fitness. There's no question about it. There's another level of intention that I think also needs to be a part of that physical fitness program. So, and this would be another question I'd ask, is how healthy can you be physically if you're not mentally or emotionally healthy? How physically fit can you be? Now, you can. Those are not, a guarantee. Like, okay, if you're physically fit, you're guaranteed to be emotionally fit. Or if you're not physically fit, that means that you're not emotionally fit. So I'm not. There's definitely some nuances here. So again, just get the concept of what I'm trying to communicate. So, but I would argue that our physical health is also directly impacted by our emotional health. In fact, there's a book, I've mentioned a number of times, called The Body Keeps the Score, that whether we're aware of it or not, our body keeps track of our emotions. Think about all the emotional injuries you've ever had in your life. Thousands of emotional injuries. How many of those emotional injuries have you ever dealt with? Have you dealt with any of the emotional injuries that you've had in your life? If not, that's thousands of emotional knots that are all over your body. If we could take your emotional body out of your physical body and have it look like, if we could see it, if we could see your emotional body, it would be covered in emotional knots and emotional injuries and emotional wounds and emotional scars. And listen, what do I say a lot on our podcast is unaddressed emotional issues do not get better over time. They actually compound. Unaddressed emotional issues do not get better over time. They actually compound. So while you think that you're being hardcore and man, I can look at me, I can stuff and avoid my emotions, which I have done my entire life, minus the past 3 or 4 years, but even still, I'm struggling with some of that now because I'm still reverting back to some of my old tendencies, which I'm not happy about, and I'm still working on. It's important. It's critical. It's critical to deal with those emotional issues and injuries. Now, listen. Here's my other kind of big note or pin in this episode. Some of those emotional issues and injuries you can face and deal with some of the tools that I have shared in some of our episodes by implementing a consistent, regular emotional fitness program. Some of them you will not be able to safely deal with on your own. With those emotional injuries that you do not feel safe dealing with on your own, get professional help, y'all. You are worth it. Your emotional health and fitness are worth it. Your family is worth you being emotionally healthy by seeking out professional help for that particular 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 big emotional injuries that you do not feel safe dealing with yourself. Get professional help if you think you need it. Do you need it forever? No, the goal is at some point to get emotionally fit enough yourself where you do not always need a therapist or someone like that. But there will be phases of your emotional growth journey where I strongly recommend getting professional help, professional counseling, that kind of thing. So, and again, at a minimum, y'all, put together an emotional fitness program. Again, 2 of those steps that I'd recommend. Our podcast, start at the beginning or start to cherry pick some of those different podcasts that you think directly apply right now, then go from the beginning. Number 2 is check out EQGangster.com/mafia. Join our supportive community where we're all working and growing alongside each other together in a safe, supportive community in the EQ Mafia. Emotionally healthy people help heal other people emotionally. And again, thank you so much for rating, reviewing, subscribing, sharing the episodes that are impactful for you. Really thankful that you have allowed us and me to be a part of your emotional fitness program and your emotional journey, your emotional growth journey.